So, hello everyone. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. This is Fireside number 27. And the title for this Fire Chat is Our Team Leads an Anti Pattern. And the reason why we're picking this topic is that a lot of the times when we're doing Agile, there's this notion of self organized teams, no? And it seems like having someone in charge of the team or as a team lead could be an anti-pattern in this case. So this is what we're going to be talking about. But before we go into that, remember to subscribe, send us topics to discuss if you're enjoying these sessions. And that's it for all the shameless plugs that we're going to do today. Let's kick it off. And I guess it would be good to start by defining what we mean by team lead, because this is a title that organizations use, but it doesn't always mean the same thing, or at least I've seen a few variances of it. So, who would like to start?
I can give it a go.
Yeah.
I see a team lead. I'll not say if I agree or disagree, but just how I see first. Yeah. So answering the question. So I see a team lead. The definition is more like, for me, it's easier to say the responsibilities. I see two main responsibilities: one external, one internal. The external is the team lead will represent the team with the rest of the organizations. Everyone that the team needs to deal with, the team lead could represent that team instead of bringing the entire team to every single meeting. That is the external phase. And then that is the internal side to it, is that every time that the team needs more clarity or they are struggling to come up with a decision, someone will need to provide that clarity. And also ultimately, when the team, a good team, 80% of the time, we always reach an agreement and decide how they want to move forward. But when they do not reach that agreement or they are struggling, the team lead could make the final decision. So that's how, in a very simplistic and quick way, how I define the two main responsibilities, how I see a team lead operating.
I can provide a bit more abstract notion of a team lead as well. um, I think a team lead is someone who leads the good function of a team, or leads the effort for the team to function well, right? So in order for a team to function as a team, there are a number of things that need to be in place, and there are a number of things that need to be constantly monitored and nurtured for it to be functional. So it has both the internal and external part, but it's all aspects of what makes a team. So how the team actually interacts with each other, how the individuals play their part within the team, how the team works towards a common goal, and how it presents itself as a unit to everything outside the team. All that needs to happen in a good way. And to me, a team lead is the person who's always making sure that it is functional, that is happening in that good way.
I agree with that definition. Like for me, it's someone who's, let's say, function or one of the main responsibilities is making sure that the team is able to be a team and perform, no, as a team. And but there's this other, when we talk about the particulars of the title of team lead, no? For me, it's also a way that organizations have to basically assign responsibilities or have some way to act on the things that need to happen, right? So there's this both sides now. So what they do versus what they represent for the organization, or the title or responsibility as or role, no, as a way to control or act on things that need to happen within the organization.
Mhm. Yeah. So I changed my mind about the need of a team lead or formal positions within a team a few times over my career, right? So I come from a more structured way. That was the pre-agile thing, or even the early days where we always had a very well, very well defined hierarchy and attributions and accountability, and then of course that with the whole agile thing, like I worked in organizations that were a bit more anti team leads or anti formal positions. They were far more focused on collaborative teams, and so everyone could share
Self-organized.
responsibilities, self-organizing
Self-organized.
teams. Yes, thanks, Mesh. Yeah, exactly. So they've been promoting this idea of self-organizing teams, and even us as a company, we also started this way with a lot of self-organizing teams and stuff. But then over time, I changed my mind again, and I felt the need of having more formal positions. And after so many years trying different models of self-organizing teams, I felt a lot of gaps. So is that old mantra? I think that we say that when everyone owns everything, no one owns anything, or so a lot of things get lost when there is not clear assignment of accountabilities and responsibilities, or someone that could remove blocks. Because a lot of things that we saw, that I at least saw in self-organizing teams, you also end up trying to manage by consensus or make decisions by consensus, because there's no clear leadership. So the team needs to end up with an agreement, and that makes every discussion, when the team members are not fully aligned, or they have different levels of experience or preferences, those meetings become very taxing. So I felt that having someone playing a leadership role that could bring that experience, that could carry the team, could was quite beneficial in a lot of
Yeah,
situations.
it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I followed. I mean, I was part of that process for quite a long time. Self-organizing teams, I think, it's not that they don't work. I think they do. The thing is that it, in a way, assumes a certain amount of knowledge, skill, maturity, all those things combined. Um, and often we find that in development team we don't always have that, and we're not really trained well around the teamwork skill. A
Working
lot of the times
together, no,
we
is no.
pardon
Yeah. But working together is not a thing that you normally
training.
train or
E-
or or, or learn. No, like you learn a language or whatever. No.
exactly. And often and we come from software development, and often we don't even lean towards those kind of skills. We'd rather be coding. And uh, the idea of a self-organizing team is always often coupled with the idea of a good coach, right? So often these teams, especially the ones we were in, left to their own devices, or you'd have a coach who'd kind of fly in here and there, see how your Kanban board is looking like, and then fly out. But not someone who really understands the dynamics individuals and the team itself, right? So I think the environments are very difficult. It's a difficult thing to set up, uh, to have a good or well functioning self-organizing team. And even in a self-organizing team, I don't think and this is something we can probably move towards, like, is it agile or so on. I don't think a team lead is then it's either or. I don't think a team lead is anti self-organizing teams. I think leadership is, it's not about dictatorship, but someone, whether
It's not
it's
about
someone that
micromanagement, right? We cannot
exactly.
mistake leadership with micromanagement. They are not the same,
It,
right?
Oh,
exactly. And also leadership is not about dictating things, it's about leading, right? It's about
Hmm.
taking everyone along that journey with you. And so even in a self-organizing context, if you don't have the concept of a team lead, you may have emergent leaders would come. Otherwise it's just always, as you were saying, a constant discussion, and not cohesive set of decisions either. If everyone is kind of piping up, and it's a case of it's quite random on what gets passed because they shout the loudest or whatever, you don't get a cohesive set of decisions either. And that goes back to accountability and those kind of things as well. So I personally don't think that self-organizing teams and team leads are kind of two separate things, or they can't exist in the same place.
They are in conflict, basically.
So,
Yeah.
so this is the thing, right? Like the concept of self-organization doesn't mean consensus, right? Doesn't mean deciding by committee or slow decisions and so on. When you have a self-organized team, very often you do assign responsibilities within the team, and you do, especially if it's a well-functioning team, you do hold your peers accountable for the things that they said that they were going to do, right? So
Yeah.
so that's still there. So you could find a self-organized team that decides, you know what, Matt, you're going to be the team lead, and we want you to. So that's perfectly possible.
Yeah.
Now,
And should be. I think it's a better way of choosing a team lead than having one imposed on you.
Exactly. So, but the reality is that a lot of the time, and this goes back to Sandra's point of I've changed my mind a couple of times and so on, is that this kind of part that I mentioned before around the structure, on what it represents within the organization and so on, comes with scale. Like when you want to accelerate this process, you tend to create those structures in order to let's say assign authority over certain decisions to people from the structure. Yeah, so the structure is saying, by the way, this is the guy that I'm going to be asking about, the team is not performing, people are quitting, whatever, right? Whatever it is that you're defining that role as. And that in itself, that authority that you're talking about comes from the structure, and it's not the same as, when someone chooses no, we get together and we're like, oh, you know what, you know more about this, maybe you should be the one, kind of guiding us on the, what architecture we need to use, and more about this, and let's you know, like your peers are kind of like providing you with that authority, instead of it being delivered through the structure or the system that you're working within. No?
Yeah. And arguably that's a better place to be in. Even as a team lead that's been imposed actually would not work well if their authority is not validated by the team, right? It's, someone can say like, here's a team lead, and that person can start behaving like a team lead as well. But in most places, like developers tend to be quite opinionated, and I think a team lead does not last long if they don't take the team with them, and they're not really a leader if they don't take the team with them.
I'll go back to that, for example, the quality of the team lead as well, because I think there is quite a few things for us to discuss in here. I would like just to remain on the topic of the self-organizing team for a little bit longer, because what I experienced and the reasons that I changed my mind was I like the theory a lot. As you were saying, Jose, there are a lot of things, or Mash, you as well, like the team could do a lot of things. They could elect someone, or at least for different areas. For example, hey, in this area here, I think that this person X is more experienced. We should listen to him and stuff. So the theory is great when you look at, but it relies on every single person playing ball very well. And the problem is that I haven't seen that working. And I tell you where I saw that failing. One, people are not people a lot of people want feedback, but they're not good at volunteering feedback. They always complain, I don't receive feedback. But when they notice that someone in their team is not performing well or is causing problems, not everyone will go to that person, hold that person accountable, or go to that person and give a feedback. There is very few people that would actually do that, right? And when there is one team member or two that are disrupting the team, I haven't seen teams coping well when they don't have a team lead formally appointed. I don't see them coping well with dysfunctional team leads, team members, right? So another thing, the task organization as well, the task distribution. when there's not someone pulling things together, they also struggle in who does what. They try their best, but not always they end up creating a cohesive focus. It takes a lot to bring everyone together and create a vision and a direction. What tends to happen most often than not, there are, again, this is anecdotal, this is just related to my experience, but I've seen people locally optimizing. So team members will end up, hey, this job here I do better, I'll focus on this, and the other team members say, hey, I do this better, and then we lose the goals of the project. That is difficult to bring the entire team aligned. They end up locally optimizing and focusing on what they're good at. So sometimes you need to tell people to do certain things that they don't realize, or they have different skill sets. And again, people love when they want people to tell them and give feedback, but they struggle to go and fix a problem with someone when they don't have that authority. So a lot of problems. So you have a false sense of unity. So there is a lot of people that are pissed off for a very long time, but it's all unsaid. They don't say, they don't bring that up because they don't feel comfortable doing that. And then at some point, everyone thinks that everything is going well, and then people start resigning, burning out, and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that just having a team lead, because of course it depends on the quality. That is the other side as well. Like a team lead could resolve a lot of those things, but also depends on the quality of that team lead. That's the other side. But I'll let you guys complement.
I think you mentioned very well, Sandro, that a number of things that are actually I would call teamwork skills, right? Being able to give feedback, holding people to account, leading or helping lead towards a single focus, single direction. All these things I think are skills. As we said earlier, we don't teach these skills. I personally don't think the team lead is the only way to have those skills in the team. You can, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a good coach who really understands the team and is with the team, and so it's not somebody who just comes in for an hour a week or something, but really understands the team. These things can be taught, and the team can be developed in a way. My personal view is that actually, although if you are creating really long-term teams, it's actually an approach that you should consider. Even if you have a team lead, you should consider having a good team coach as well, who is getting people to understand and practice these skills. Because we're going to talk a bit later about the team lead itself, because if you have an imposed team lead, which often you need to have, because being able to choose a team lead, or for a team lead to emerge, you're already assuming a lot of team working skills in the team. So often you have to assign a team lead, right? But actually, that is a single point of failure in many ways. And if the team is not skilled enough to identify that the team lead is not doing a good job, and there are not good mechanisms for the team to actually escalate that, you may end up with a dictatorship, actually, and where things can be even more dysfunctional because this one person is ruling the roost, as it were.
Yeah, so there's a few misconceptions that I feel people don't normally talk about. Yeah, and you just mentioned a few of them. One is the assumption that a self-organized team is a good team, or a team that is effective. Not really. It doesn't. The same way that having a team lead is not a way to guarantee that a team will work, right? Then there's another misconception, which is the team lead is the leader. And this is something that I have a problem with a lot of the time, because it says lead in the title. So to some extent, the tools that you're using to try and create that environment so on are working against you, because now that someone has the team lead thing, then I don't have to lead. I don't have to think, basically, right? And that is very common as well, right? So leadership, as I understand it in that sense, is a role, and people take that role, in different contexts within a team, independently or of what title they hold. No? And that is an issue. If people don't understand leadership as that, then you also have a single point of failure, as you were saying before. No, so those things on their own or so how people understand leadership is already something that works against you. Then you also mentioned the context in which the team can perform, and having a coach and all these things, and that is necessary. But eventually what you really want is not to shift the burden to someone else. That is, you want to develop the team so that that members are aware that certain things need to happen independently of who's responsible. It's everyone's responsibility, but this guy is accountable. They need to happen. And if we want the team to be successful, then we all need to contribute to that. And if someone is not doing their job properly, or is having an issue or whatever, we pull together and we solve the issue together, right? Because it's affecting us all. No, so all of those things are misconceptions that people have. Like I usually ask, a few questions around leadership in interviews, and that already tells you where this person is expecting for someone else to tell them what to do, right? Or not, or they are proactive and so on. And what is it that they look for in team leads, or in leaders in general? And that gives you a lot of information on, would that person work well in one of our teams, right? So
I have you mentioned a few things that I would like to tackle that I also experienced in self-organizing teams that didn't work so well. Is that there is an assumption that everyone is equal in that team, and this is a problem. And the reason that I say that is a problem is that a team is composed by members with different skill sets and different levels of seniority. So we have people that have been in projects for a long time. They've done it. They experienced many different things. And I have people that are far less experienced. But they might be more vocal. And the problem that I see in a lot of those teams is that when there is no formal leadership, not the person that is actually more experienced, that is more suitable to make certain decisions, or at least should have a higher say in certain things, they might not have that because they cannot impose themselves, because everyone is equal in a way. And this is dangerous, because then all of a sudden it becomes a team that when there is no formal leadership, again, I will go back. I know that we have the same problem when you have a leader that misbehaves, but let's put that to the side for a bit. But a team without leadership becomes whoever shouts louder, not whoever is more suitable to make it decision.
You mean a team with a consensus kind of decision-making process?
In order not
where
to have
there is no formal leadership, is what you mean? Not
exactly. So a team that doesn't have formal leadership, very rarely, if they don't have formal leadership, very rarely they will have a very well-defined way to make decisions, because there are multiple types of decisions that a team needs to make on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or a sprint basis, and not everyone is equipped to, although they have the best intentions in the world, they might not have the actual seniority or experience to actually negotiate with the clients or different architects or outside the team and inside the team to make some of those decisions. And this creates a lot of problems for people that have some of those experience, but because they don't really have that formal position, it's difficult for them just to shout. So their option should not be just, oh, I need to shout a little bit louder, right? So, and then that people say, you know what, like, I will just do my job here, and I will not start fighting other battles.
I understand your point, Sandro, but theoretically, people who are more senior should be more reasoned. And assuming, like, if there's a shouting match going on, then of course that's a problem. But normally in within team situations, normally the match is not a shouting match. Often, actually, what normally the problem happens is that when they are well matched, I think this in my experience, when you have a bunch of a team that is actually quite well matched in terms of their seniority and in terms of their experience and so on, that's when arguments are rife, and there's a lot of talk and not a lot of decision making. If the team is well balanced in terms of the kind of different skill sets and seniority and those kind of things, it happens less. The idea that more senior people might not be well equipped to to uh, to kind of defend their point of view. I'd counter that by saying that why are they more senior if they can't defend their point of view?
Well, I understand. I agree that, well, given the kind of people that we are here, we are like we climbed our way to leadership positions because we are able to make our how can I say, our opinions well known and make our points, and we will not just shut up, basically, right? So we'll not just like just listen and
That's
take.
We'll not
that's
shut up
true,
even
man.
when we are wrong.
Right. So,
That
well, we'll put our point across, right? So we will not just like. But what I'm trying to say is like we will put our point across, and I think that a senior person should do that. But this is taxing, because if every single decision you are always doing that, it's taxing for you to always be fixing things at all time, depending on the kind of structure of the team you have. Uh, and again, I'm just trying to do a counterbalance, because we normally lean more towards the self-organizing team. So I'm just trying to bring to the table all the problems that I've seen and why I end up changing my mind. So, and I'm still trying to talk about every team at some point is dysfunctional. And going through that period without leadership and waiting for informal leaderships to emerge, because the informal leaderships, they don't emerge normally like, okay, this person is the full leader now informally. They emerge maybe in certain areas. There might be one person that is an informal leader for a certain area, but for other things maybe the team relies on someone else. And bringing everything together when there is dysfunction, when there is one or two members that are a bit more complicated, or when people are upset and you need to interact, you need to solve that, or there are external pressures, right? So, or you need to interact with a lot of other people externally, you need to synchronize everything. This is where like the team falls apart, because they cannot put everything together.
And evolution is slow, right? This is the other thing. Like, how much
It's
are you willing to
painful.
invest in create, having a primordial soup and thinking, oh, something amazing is going to emerge. It probably will, but it will take a while. Um,
Yeah.
so, but on the other hand, like if you introduce structure is artificial, and it introduces weaknesses in the system. But uh, I think it's a case of both. If you have uh, if you have dysfunctional teams, it is good to have somebody who is given the accountability for as a team lead. And also, in a way, it actually becomes a bit for self-fulfilling prophecy as well, because when someone is told, often a lot of the times, a lot of people have the potential, but they don't have the right opportunity. And sometimes it's just about, actually, for that one person that you kind of think, well, has the potential to create some space so they can build these leadership skills. Because otherwise you've got a bunch of people that all have the potential, but all kind of trying the best they can, and there's no space there for them to actually show or practice leadership in a more structured environment. And I think I like the idea of having a team lead in that sense as well, is that when you designate somebody, you're almost kind of allowing them that space, and the rest of the team also expects them to lead, and therefore often they lead, and they
Yeah,
build up those skills.
but this is again what I was mentioning before, that because you appoint someone as the leader, then precisely people expect them to lead. So they normally, what they do is they take a passive role to things. Yeah.
But they were doing that
And
already. That's the context I'm talking about.
When they
Not
are
necessarily.
passive, when they
No
are
one was
passive, they are
leading.
passive.
No,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
necessarily. Not necessarily. Right. Like the whole thing that I was trying to the whole point that I was trying to make before was sometimes by appointing someone, yeah, you are kind of sending a signal to everyone. If you don't clarify that, what the expectations are by appointing that person, yeah, you are kind of sending a signal, or it could be interpreted as, okay, so let's him or her deal with that, yeah, or make the decision or whatever. I'll just wait until the decision is made, yeah. And this is, I would say, quite normal, right? Like, hey, you're
It's
saying the
I don't
responsibility
think
is
it's
with
as
them,
bad
you
as that.
want him to make the uh, yeah. So
I don't think I don't think like someone, if I was in a team and someone appoints a team leader and I was thinking, oh, you know what, I can't make any decisions, so
maybe you
I'm
just
not gonna
make
make any
the way
decisions.
that you explained it. The way that you explained it was that there is no space for practicing leadership, and I don't agree with that. Whether you have the title or not, there's always space for
No,
you to act as a
But
leader
that's a
and
different
lead
thing.
others
I
and
was
things.
talking about
And that's
creating
the
a nicer environment for people,
Yeah.
for some people to flourish. Because if the team is chaotic, be, leadership, it requires much higher, bigger caliber of leadership for you to rise within it. But if an environment is created for you to that nurtures a leader, then
yeah.
it's easier. It's easier for them
Yes,
to,
I
for
agree
one
with that.
to
I
emerge.
thought that you were saying that that environment gets created, let's say, by you appointing someone, because you appoint someone and then basically you're telling them, "Hey, now you need to lead," and everyone else. This is what you said, no? And you appoint
No, of
someone,
course.
you're kind of creating that opportunity for them, and then everyone else also understands that they are your words were they are expecting for that person to lead, therefore they end up leading. That kind of, and
Yeah.
I understand that, but that environment, that now that you've explained that you're talking more about an environment where people can lead and so on and so forth, I can get completely behind that, no. But appointing is not, in fact, is very common because of the Peter principle and all this stuff, that people get promoted to positions where they have to lead without having the skill
So
set to do it,
so this
right?
is I think there's some certain assumptions in there. Is that
Yeah.
like you just picking a random person, you know, right? And I did say, by the way, you appoint. That's how you create the environment. You appoint somebody so that, and these are artificial structures. I totally agree with it, right? If you could get an emergent leader, and in a efficient way. So, for example, if a team was actually, you saw that actually
You
that
vote. They
you just
vote on who's gonna be the.
no, it's not.
No.
Well, they can, but what I'm
I'm
saying is
just
that if the
kidding.
team, yeah, no, I know, but if there is a bunch of people in the team and you think actually it just needs a bit of coaching, bit of nudging for that leadership to emerge, that's one thing. I'm talking about a chaotic environments, which often is the case, by the way. It's not a rarity. Like teams, they, especially,
Inside and internally and externally, right? So
yeah,
the
exactly.
chaos is inside and outside.
And that's what I'm talking. But then you don't actually, you're not picking just somebody at random. You are looking at people who are showing initiative, who are showing some kinds of leadership already, and they need a bit of support and bit of help too. And then you appoint them, right? So
and
you
then
appoint them
you
because they are
supercharge
already
something,
showing some
exactly,
signs of it. But that's what I meant. You
exactly.
don't pick one at random.
No, this is an important aspect. So I find in general, and there is an assumption here, and it's we just need to take that assumption. Like you have a good leader, and a good leader is a person that is creating the space, right? So there are many characteristics. I will not be able to enumerate them all, but like in a summary, like a good leader is someone that can listen to everyone, all the inputs, but they have the experience. They are respected. They can listen to everyone and bring everyone to an agreement. They are capable of unite everyone behind a single objective, listening everyone, directing, measuring the pros and cons, explaining decisions, taking them along, both their team, and they are also capable of representing the team interests outside as well with the other people that the team needs to talk to, right? So being other teams, other departments, and stakeholders, and so on and so forth. It's just not feasible to bring every single person in the team to collaborate with every single stakeholder that they might have, right? So assuming that this person is a good leader, is able to do that, naturally there will be space for the team members to volunteer their opinions, to take ownership of certain tasks of the team or areas of that project, which means that those people are now showing leadership skills. It's not that the team lead is suppressing everyone. No, they are just representing everyone. They are aligning everyone. They are representing the team. And when the teams are, as I said, in the small percentage of the cases where the team is not able to reach an agreement, the team leaders say, look, I heard everyone. I understand all the reasons, but we need to move forward, and let's try to do this for the next 2 weeks or the next month, and then we'll talk again, right? So assuming that, it creates a space for people internally to lead and to grow. And then the appointment of those team leads. So this allows the team for me to function better, right? It gives more direction, it gives more cohesiveness, if you like. And we are taking someone with experience to bring everything together, so that people with less experience, when they join those teams, they can see a better functioning team, how the team lead is bringing everyone together, so that as they grow, they could do the same. And how team leads are appointed. They show this informal leadership. In projects, how many times in our company we saw people that they were not team leads, but they were always very proactive in volunteering options, in contributing with the tasks, in raising their hands and say, hey, I want to do that myself. I would like that task for me. So they had that sense of ownership.
And also collaborative.
Exactly.
Also collaborative as well.
Exactly. They were always able to do that in a collaborative way without creating frictions. They always, when they realized that they were not seeing eye to eye, they were always, like, even not being the formal team lead, be able to step back a bit and say, hey guys, I think we're going in the wrong direction here. Let's go back to the problem that we're trying to solve. We are the same team. We are all in the same side. So you see that some people have a lot of intelligence in that regard. So then when the organization needs sometimes a successor from that team lead, because the team lead now maybe will be moving to something, those people become the natural candidates to take that leadership position. Or when there are new projects, new teams that need to be created, they also become natural people to seed the new teams when there is a growth of new teams and stuff. So they are creating an environment to be chosen. Because what I've seen in some of the environments is where they are deferring to the team lead to make decisions. They take either a very destructive approach where they're very disruptive, or they just take a step back. Oh, there is a team lead, so I'm not going to do anything. And then they are annoyed that things don't get resolved because they just decided that it's not up to them to decide. So those people, for example, will never be good candidates to be a lead anywhere, because they are not offering that leadership, right? So
now I'm gonna introduce now a new thing here, which is a lot of the times going into a position of being a team lead and so on. So hey, let me rephrase that. A lot of the time, people want to go into those positions. Again, they have misconceptions, but also there is an aspect of being in that position comes with a pay increase. No, the whole idea of, as you go upper in management or whatever, then you get paid more, because that's the way that a lot of times things are incentivized. No, and when they get to that position, they realize that's not what they wanted to do. They sign up for, right? Like, oh, now you hear it all the time. Now people who, I don't know, went into manager as managers, no, and they complain, oh, this is how much code I write every day, and they, less and less and less until you don't write anything. I spend all my time in meetings. This is things that I hear, that I've heard quite a lot, no. So this is the other thing. There's an aspect there around that misunderstanding of what having the role means and actually doing the thing it means, right? And there's an incentive for it, right? Like, so those two are kind of you want good leaders, you want people to know, and you want to identify people with those characteristics and put them in those positions. But maybe when you put them in those positions, they're no longer effective, as effective as they were before, right? So there is this idea. No.
There is this thing, and I've been thinking, like I have thought of quite a bit about this, because I mean I myself found in quite a few times found myself in those situations where, either myself or even people in my teams that I was looking after, moving people that were really star programmers or good developers to then position where they're no longer developing, right? and and you start thinking, well, why? And often this argument is kind of mentioned, that like in software development, good developers are moved into managerial positions, so that until they get to the point where they can't do the job that they were doing well, they've been promoted to something that they can't do well. But I don't think it's 100% right, because there is an assumption in that very thing, is that somehow the kind of the nerd programmer, the one that who is really into technology and really understands it well, is the one that is the most effective developer. And that's not the case. Normally, actually, those people who are moving up in organizations into these leadership positions, they're not only good programmers, they are good developers in general. And large part, in my opinion, a much larger part is actually more related to how good a leader they are, or what kind of potential they have in leadership, and consequently are moving more into the leadership position. Now, it often happens sometimes is that they do miss the programming part, because that's how we came. And often people, especially during the midpoints in my own career, I missed programming a lot and always try to move back into programming. But actually, I think it's a misconception, because okay, it's an enjoyable thing for us to do sometimes, but is it the best thing I could be doing given my skill set? Probably not.
This is as you were saying, Mesh. I just wrote it down because as I'm thinking my notes. So I wrote exactly that. So there is a difference between what you like doing and the impact that you have. And this is what it needs to be clear, children. I don't think there is absolutely nothing wrong with people saying, hey, you know what? I will build my career just doing what I really like doing. And if that is writing code and I don't want to do anything else besides coding, great. I think people should follow that path. Because I had a very similar experience with you, Mesh. Like for quite a few years, like playing more leadership positions, even within our company, I missed coding. I wanted to be coding. But all of a sudden I realized, I said, look, but what is the impact that I want to have? What are the real things that I really want to change? And there would be nothing wrong if I said, you know what, I want to just write code. I want to be a team member writing code. But then there is a consequence for those acts. If I want to do what I like, my impact will be, well, it will depend on what I choose to do. There will be a respective impact. And for example, just finish, like when you go to certain leadership positions, you have a chance to maximize or to multiply the impact that you can have in an organization. That would come along as you have a much larger impact, or you can multiply the impact that you can have. That will come along with some perks, including some financial rewards. But if you just want to, you can still have an impact, but it will be, if it just relies on the outcome of the code that you produce, your impact will be less than if you were multiplying that impact. So you can do whatever you like, but like at the end of the day, you'll be paid according to the impact that you have, and the opportunities will come according to the impact that you want to have.
Okay, but again, based on what I hear people saying, like, I spend my whole time in meetings, etc., right? My question then would be, is the impact that you're having the most, you were saying, is that how you can make that? Maybe the most impact that you can do is not being in that position and leaving someone else that can do that, to do it.
Well, it
And this
depends
is,
because
this is the thing, because again, what Marsh was saying, people get promoted, like, it's very common, like I see, and people sometimes, because they are afraid of that, they say no to moving to those positions, right? And again, that's totally fine as well. Yeah, but there is a downside there. It's not always that you get promoted to a team lead position and you do more good than when you were just a team member being super proactive and so on.
no, sure, there might be the thing about skill set and competence and all this kind of stuff. But let's assume that the person, there is a case where someone is promoted for the wrong reasons to a position where they now don't perform well. That is the Peter principle that we talk about. But there is also some people that, as they are evolving in their career, they are acquiring more and more skills, right? So being part of so many different teams over time allowed them to see how to manage teams much better, because they were managed by many different people. They had to handle different types of interactions within the team and outside the team. They saw the impacts of those interactions. So now they have skills or experience that is far wider than just writing code and just taking the next user story to implement. If they want to use that skills that they learned, that they acquired, is a different topic. They might choose and say, hey, you know what, I could do that. I could do that if I wanted to, but I would rather, this kind of work here gives me more pleasure. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that kind of work might have one degree of impact. A different kind of work might have a much different type of impact, and the kind of opportunities that will come to you, at least within that environment, might differ completely.
I I wanna address slightly what Jose was, one part of what you're saying as well, Jose, which is that you might get to a point where it's beyond you. You don't want to do it, and it's beyond you as well, right? But I think there is one element that we haven't discussed so far, is that we've considered the team element, the team's relationship with the team lead, but also that team is in a team of teams. Usually the context is in an organization, right? And there always needs to be governance on the team leader themselves, right? A leader can emerge in a team, whether they were chosen or appointed, who could actually be detrimental to that team. Certain people can come emerge. Not every emergent leader is a good leader, or is good for the welfare of the team, right? I think that's also a misconception, that, I mean, all emergent leaders are good leaders. But someone who has been appointed or who has emerged as a team lead, there needs to be a process around their governance, an escalation process through the team to somebody else who the team lead is accountable to, whether that's an organization or individual, and also a review process where their work is also being monitored, and the team happiness is being monitored, and all other aspects of that team are being monitored
They're getting
beyond
feedback.
going through yeah, exactly, beyond going through the team lead. It's not about just asking the team lead how the team is doing. We should gather intelligence from the team itself to understand how the team is doing.
Exactly. I think this is a critical path, because, like, as soon as someone in the organization elects someone to become a team lead, they need to make sure that there are some, as you said, mesh governance or accountability related, and the team health, the happiness of the team members, the performance of that team, uh, is accountability of the team lead. If people don't want to stay in that team, if the team is not performing, if there is a lot of rotation in that team, we'll say, look, we need to go to the team lead and say, like, look, that whatever you are doing is not working because your team, the team members don't want to stay here. right? So are you really being a leader here? Or there are some external factors that are causing the team leads. So then the organization needs to understand, is it the team lead that is creating unhappiness or dysfunction? So then the team lead needs to be addressed. Or there are other, I don't know, factors in the system that is making everyone unhappy, including the team lead, and that's a different conversation. But yes, there should be a escape route for the team members to escalate the problem. Because this is another thing that is very important for me. The team lead is not the team managers or line managers and stuff, right? So the team lead has some responsibilities within that engagement, within that team. But like when the team members are not happy or there is some things that they cannot resolve, they should have a way to escalate that. And then go into their line manager, to the person above the team lead, and say, look, I need to have a chat here because this is not working. We've been trying a lot of things, but the team lead here is not helping, and we need help here.
So
then, yeah.
I'm gonna turn a little bit away from that, because we've been talking about what it is. We've been talking about what self-organization in relation to that. We've been talking about the role of the team lead, or the formal authority, let's say, in creating that space where people can be leaders and so on. We talked about appointing them. So what criteria, you've already mentioned some of this, but what criteria would you follow, or so that people who are listening to this maybe can decide whether they want to invest in building up those skills, or those have those behaviors or whatever, right? In order to select someone as a good candidate. Like, what are the things that tell you that someone is a good candidate to do that? What do you look for in that? And then there's a two-part question. And then, is there anything that can be done in order to create those? Because you were talking about what happens, when someone, that let's say the team lead gets promoted to something else or leaves the company, and then there's a vacuum and people can step into that, no? But there's also a chance that that's going to happen, and you want to get things ready, right? So you want to know how to select, or how to build or coach, or help other people step into that role, right? So those would be the two aspects. What do you think about that? Like, what would you do to select, and then what can you do in order to help others, no, and prepare them for that?
So I can give a few ideas. Like, funny enough, a good team lead would be essential for this process. For example, a good team lead should already help to make sure there is a succession plan. So a good team lead should be a leader, but also a mentor. So should help their team members to grow, giving them responsibility. Sometimes bringing them to some individuals that are showing a bit more potential to certain meetings, creating space, for example, in demos or things like that, for them to present certain ideas or to own parts of the. So, for example, a good team lead would help to create other good team leads. They would serve as an inspiration and mentor. This is how I, growing up, I had a few people that were my direct managers that I learned a lot from. I even worked under Mesh in my early days of Valtech, and I learned a lot from him in the way that he was dealing with the client, the way that he was, and I was a pain in the ass as a team member, right? So Mesh had a challenge on his hands in the early days, right? So I was not easy, and right. So
you mean you were?
You had a challenge.
Yeah, I solved my problem not having anyone above me now. But like, so but again, like, so working under people that I really admire, I learned from those leaders, and I think that the leader has that. So one of the things is you could use your good leaders to nurture more leaders, right? That is one side. So another thing is once the organization identify those people, is to start creating the opportunity, but then make sure that you just don't throw them at deep end. So, for example, other team leads could form their community of practice, not just for team leads. It's not an elitist community, but like you could provide the support for team leads as well, through coaching, through mentors, through other things as well. But you can start small. You can start from the team members' perspective, instill a culture in your organization from the team lead and say, hey, give ownership of things to your team members. And this is a thing that is easy to do, and a good team lead should help a lot. And then it's a way to scale your organization as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very good way of putting it. Is that, like for any leadership position, a good leader has succession plan. They are nurturing other people to walk in the same place and in the same way, and help nurture them, and that makes a good leader. I mean, otherwise it's inherently not a good leader. Is someone who is hoarding their position. Leaders are kind of supporting others to flourish and be successful, and not just make it about themselves, right?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I would say that you need to resist the urge to do things yourself, because you think, like you're delegating something, but you may want to step in, and you need to encourage in a positive way. Even if you're giving feedback, you should give feedback in a positive light, right? So talk about what's going to, how you could do better next time, other ways that you could have approached things, and so on, right? Reinforce the points that were very good and it should be maintained, and so on, right? So yeah, that's important.
And I think that there is a cultural aspect that leaders can instill, is that, as you all know, and I mentioned in quite a few of the episodes, I'm very keen on the whole extreme ownership thing, and it's also like I cannot even understand. It doesn't compute in my brain, like someone not taking a leadership position or not striving to that. For example, throughout my career, I wanted to have control of my life. I want to have that independence, that autonomy. But for that, you need to put yourself forward. You need to, if you want to have autonomy, you need to have accountability. So, for example, I didn't want to be suffering from decisions that would impact me directly, and be in a position that I cannot influence those decisions or even make those decisions. So for me, as an individual, I wanted to make sure that I could contribute, but that I could also create a space where I have my autonomy. But for that, I had to chase the accountability for that as well, and that will come with informal or formal leadership.
It's related to doing your job well as well, right? Because you have to kind of manage up as well as down, and managing up is kind of is like leadership, right? You're by providing the right information, by taking the right action, by seeing gaps, and making sure that that you take ownership of those kind of things, actually helps you do your job well, and helps you to kind of be a good team member, because you're finding the things that others may be dropping, and you're helping kind of plug in those gaps so that the team succeeds as a whole. So I think these kind of taking initiative, moving, is actually an important part. Whether you want to be a team lead or not, it's just being important. It's an important part of being a team member, in my view.
And I think that if you want to wrap up, for example, in terms of like the way I think today, if I see that as an anti-pattern, given the choice, I would rather have team leads. I like the idea of having a way for people to take more responsibilities, to help other people to grow, because again, not every team member has the same level of skill set or the same level of seniority, or even like the skill set as well, because you can have like a cross-functional team that needs to be focused on a single goal. You need to bring things together. You need to interact. As Mesh said, a team doesn't live in isolation. It lives into a wider ecosystem within our organization. There is loads of touch points that needs to be represented. Someone needs to represent their interest or understand the needs from the external stakeholders. And it's not realistic I haven't seen that done well. And if people saw that done well, there would be more exceptional cases, I would say. Like having a single point or a few points of connections with the team is for me a better model. It helps, it creates, again, assuming that the people doing the leadership role are good leaders, they are nice people, they are listening to everyone. It creates a safe environment for less experienced people to come in. They can come in an environment where things are more controlled, are being taken care of. When there are conflicts, there is someone that is equipped, well equipped to deal with that, and gradually mentoring all of those people so that they can grow in a safe environment and then play the same position and replicate that. So today, I think that this is a better model, but the caveat in that is the organization also needs to put a lot of focus on creating those good leaders and supporting them, right? But I prefer this model than having not teams without leadership, let's say, or formal leadership.
I agree with you, Sandro, except when you said today, I think it's a better model. I thought you were going to say, but yesterday I thought it was not a good model. And before that, day before that, I thought it was a good model.
Well, yeah. So I changed my mind a few times. So where I am today, I think that this is
I'm the same. I'm the same, by the
yeah.
way. I'm not beating you with it. There was a point where I thought, like, anything that would be imposed on a team or assigned in a team is just inherently bad, and always thought that emergent leaders were inherently good. But I think I've seen some situations where I'm thinking, okay, these things are, there's a lot of shades of grays in all of these things.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, I really don't have much to add to that. I feel like the if you're talking or thinking about going a position like that, start doing it today. You don't have to wait until you have the title, so to speak, and get really good at dealing with people. I'm just saying. I mean, I've seen people who wanted to be team leads because they thought that being a team lead was more about telling people what they need to do and micromanaging. You tell them what to do, and that's it. It will happen. It can't be farther from the truth.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how many times you tell people, like it's that's not the way to achieve
Yeah.
those results. So start getting really good at that. Start reading. There's a lot of bibliography on that. One book that I could recommend is, well, two books. One is Leading Teams from Richard Hackman. There's a lot of research on how teams work and so on, and that's good. And then there's another one called Smart Leaders, Smarter Teams, by a guy who's a consultant. Is Roger Schwartz, I think it's called. Very good as well. He talks about the common learning mindset versus the unilateral control mindset, which are kind of some of the things that we discussed here today. So, yeah, check those out. And
Jose, I'm surprised you didn't mention one that you mentioned to me a long time ago. Maybe you don't like that book anymore, but the book called Teamwork is an Individual Skill.
teamwork is an individual skill. Yeah, yeah. It's okay. I think for someone who's again, someone who wants to get better at teamwork, they should definitely get get
Read
that.
that one first. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, so let's wrap up. Those were the final words. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, great. So if you like the discussions, if you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe so you get notifications when we release a new episode. We're gonna be doing the live streaming soonish. That will be a way to get notified that the live stream is happening, and send us topics. See you then on the next episode.
Thank you for listening.